Hey guys, today I'm going to do a quick tutorial on graphing inequalities on a coordinate plane. And so what you need is some paper. Don't worry about it being graph paper or not, just regular paper is fine. You're going to take a few notes and I'm going to then show you how your assignment will be completed this week on Delta Math. All right, so graphing inequalities. An inequality, remember, can be a greater than, can be less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. So make sure you know their names. That's greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, and then the last one there is less than or equal to. Kind of helps if you know their names, so that's going to help determine if you're going to shade above or below. Because what we're going to do today is you're going to have a line graphed on a coordinate plane. Oops, that's my x-axis, my y-axis. And so I'm going to show how to graph, and then of course if it's dotted or solid and all that good jazz. All right, so this first inequality is greater than. This is going to be drawn with a dotted line, and you're going to shade above that line. So let me show you an example. If I end up with the equation y is greater than 1/2 x plus 4, we know how to graph y equals mx plus b. You're going to start at the y-intercept. So in this example, my y-intercept is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the y-axis. So I'm going to put my starting point. 4 is my starting point. And then my slope is 1/2. So my slope tells me to go up 1 and to the right 2 because it's positive. So from my starting point, I go up 1 and to the right 2 because it's positive. Now this inequality is greater than. So I'm going to use this option here, and it tells me I'm going to use a dotted line. And because it's greater than, I'm going to shade everywhere above my line. So if you're confused on what is above and what is below the line, just put your pencil on the line and go above that point. So I'm going to shade everywhere above my line. So this is the inequality. And what this tells us is any point that falls in this shaded region is a solution to this inequality. So any point that falls above this line is going to be a solution to this particular inequality. So that is how you graph. So I'm going to go through and we're going to determine what type of line to draw and where to shade. So the second inequality, the less than sign, is going to be dotted, and we would shade below. So make sure you're jotting these down on your notes, and so you can refer back to them when you do your assignment. The next inequality, the third one, is greater than or equal to. Because it's got the equal mark, that's a solid line. And it's greater than, so you would shade above. The last one is less than or equal to. Because of the equal sign, it's going to be solid, and less than means we're going to shade below the line. All right, so that is how you graph an inequality when your equation's in y equals mx plus b. I'm going to show us some examples. What happens if your line is not in y equals mx plus b? Well, we already know how to do that. So I'm going to, and of course, if you need to, you could have paused that, take those notes. You can always rewind if I went too fast there. All right, so what if I gave us, let's see here, 4x minus 3y is greater than 12. And I wanted to graph this inequality. Well, I've got to get it into y equals mx plus b. But I don't have an equal sign this time. Just pay attention to that inequality. So to do that, just like before, you're going to move the x term. So I'm going to move my x term, which becomes a minus 4x. And then I'm going to divide everything by the number in front of the y. So in this problem, -3. And so then I clean this up. Now, we have talked previously about solving inequalities. And if you divide by a negative, you need to flip your inequality symbols. So if you noticed, I'm flipping. It was greater than, now it's going to become less than. And then, of course, 12 divided by -3 is -4. -4x divided by -3 turns into a positive 4/3 x. So just be careful when dividing by a negative. You want to flip the inequality. So make sure you remember, if you're dividing by a negative, and we studied that rule when we did, just the regular solving equations. So if you divide by negative, remember to flip that inequality. So now I could be ready to graph this. And so I would draw my x and y axis. Where would I start? If you said -4, you're absolutely correct. Where would I go from that starting point? If you said up 4 and to the right 3, you're absolutely correct. And what kind of line would I draw? Is that going to be a solid line or a dotted line? Look back at your notes. That's right. That is a dotted line. And where would I shade? Look back at your notes. Look at that symbol. Where would you shade? If you said below the line, you are absolutely correct. It is less than. So we got a dotted line and we're going to shade below. And all that tells us is that any point in that region is a solution to that inequality. So make sure you can solve for y by moving the x term and then dividing. We've done that plenty of times. Just be careful if you're dividing by a negative. Okay, that's the little note there in that bubble. If you divide by a negative, you got to flip that inequality sign. All right, so let's take a look at your assignment this week on Delta Math. So let me go. All right, linear inequalities. So you've got some problems here. And so this first one's not in y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of work here. Oops, I'm moving my graph around. Who knew I could do that? I didn't. All right, so I need to solve for y first. So I'm going to go back to my paper here. And I am going to solve for y. And my equation, remember, was, I can't see that, x minus 5y is less than 20. So on your paper where you're doing your work, you got to write that down. And now we're ready to solve by moving the x term. So we're going to say minus 1x. Divide everything by -5. So y, because I'm dividing by negative, I almost forgot, I need to flip that inequality symbol. Okay, so I need to make sure I remember to flip that inequality symbol. 20 divided by -5 is -4. A -1 divided by -5 becomes a positive 1/5 x. So there's my equation. So jot that down because you guys have to help me remember here. So y is greater than -4 plus 1/5 x. All right, so now I'm going to go back to my Delta Math here. And we are going to start at what point? What's my y-intercept? -4, absolutely. So I put my dot on -4. And my slope was what? Okay, 1/5. So what does that mean? That's right, you're going to go up 1 and to the right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and put your other dot. And it draws the line for you. Super simple. But remember, these are inequalities, so I'm not done. I have this option that popped up that says change line and change shade. So do I want to keep my line solid or is it dotted? Look back at your notes. That's right, I need to change it to a dotted line. And remember, in our equation you have written down, we had to flip that inequality sign because my y variable was negative, so it's greater than. Where do you shade for greater than? Think greater than. Where is greater? Shade above. So I'm going to click my shade. And of course, if you click it again, it'll pop it down. You click it again, it'll pop it up. So make sure you choose the correct shading. So we want to shade above my line because we're going to flip that inequality. And so now I'm ready to submit my answer. And I got my green check mark. Awesome. Let's take a look at another problem. I want one that's already in y equals because I'm lazy. Here's one. All right. So I am going to start where? If you said +3, you're correct. And where do I go? What's my slope? It's positive, so I'm going to go up 1 and to the right 3. Good job. And so do I want to keep my solid line or do I change it to a dotted line? Is it dotted or is it solid? That's right, it's solid because it's got the equals mark in the inequality, so I want to keep my solid line. Now it's greater than or equal to, so my solid line is because of the equals, but what about the greater than? Where do I shade? Do I shade above or below this line? Do I shade above the line or below the line? Greater than. Absolutely, you're going to shade above. All right, so now I'm going to submit my answer, and boom, got my green check mark. So that's your assignment this week. Super easy. Just remember when you're solving for y, if you have to divide by negative to flip that inequality. So again, very easy on this example. You'd start at, that's right, -7. What's my slope? 1. So I would go up 1 and to the right 1, just like that. Less than or equal to, remember, refer back to your notes. Look at that symbol. What kind of line is it? That's right, it's a solid line. And less than means I'm shading where? Above or below? Below, absolutely correct. So submit. Super easy. Got your green check mark. So that's your assignment for this week. Please let me know if you guys have any questions, and I will see if I can help you. See you guys soon.